You're in the middle of a sentence and the word just disappears. Or you walk into a room and have absolutely no idea why you went in there. Or you see someone you've known for 20 years and for a terrifying few seconds, you can't remember their name. If any of that sounds familiar, I want you to know you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not helpless. My name is Dr. Leonid Kim. I've spent years working with patients over 60, and here's something I tell every single one of them when they come in worried about their memory. What you eat is either feeding your brain or slowly starving it. Now, most doctors will tell you that some memory changes are just part of aging, and that's true to a point. But what research is showing us now, with more clarity than ever before, is that certain foods actively accelerate the kind of brain damage that leads to serious cognitive decline. Not over decades, over months and years. And the cruel irony? Most of these foods are considered completely normal. They're in every grocery store. They're on most Americans' kitchen tables. Some of them are even marketed as healthy. Today, I'm going to give you 7 of them. I'm going to explain exactly what each one does to the aging brain, not in vague terms, but the real biological mechanism. And I'm going to tell you what to do instead. Stay with me through number 3, because that one is going to surprise you. I've had patients genuinely shocked when I showed them the research on it. And if you're new here, welcome. Hit subscribe before we dive in. Every week, I release videos specifically designed for people over 60, because your body and your brain have different needs than a 40-year-old's, and most health content completely ignores that. Let's get into it. The first category probably doesn't shock you, but the reason it's on this list might. I'm talking about ultra-processed snack foods, potato chips, packaged crackers, cheese puffs, commercial pastries, snack cakes. The things most of us have been eating since childhood. Now, you've probably heard these are bad for your heart or your waistline. But here's what most people don't know. These foods are particularly destructive to the aging brain. And the reason comes down to something called advanced glycation end products, or AGES. When you eat foods that are high in refined carbohydrates and low-quality fats, especially foods that have been processed at high heat, your body produces these AGE molecules. They essentially cause a kind of cellular rusting. They bind to proteins and fats in your body, make them stiff and dysfunctional, and they trigger a cascade of inflammation. Now here's the part that matters specifically for you if you're over 60. As we age, our body's ability to clear AGEs significantly slows down. Research suggests older adults can accumulate AGEs 30 to 40% faster than younger adults relative to the same diet. And when AGEs accumulate in the brain, they don't just cause general inflammation. They specifically damage the hippocampus, the region of your brain that forms new memories. A major study from Columbia University found a direct association between ultra-processed food consumption and faster hippocampal shrinkage in older adults. Your hippocampus is already a target of normal aging. These foods put a magnifying glass on that process. The practical takeaway. The worst offenders are anything in a crinkly bag with a shelf life of 6 months or more. Chips, commercial crackers, most store-bought pastries, and cookies. You don't have to be perfect, but try to limit these to once or twice a week at most, rather than daily snacking. Swap in raw nuts, seeds, fresh fruit, plain Greek yogurt. Your hippocampus will thank you. Let's talk about what you're drinking. Sugary beverages. I'm talking about regular soda, sweetened iced tea, lemonade, sports drinks, and yes, even fruit juice are among the fastest ways to damage the aging brain. And the mechanism here is one that hits seniors harder than any other age group. When you consume large amounts of fructose, the sugar found in high concentrations in these drinks, your brain begins to develop what researchers call insulin resistance at the neuronal level. Now, you may know insulin as the hormone that manages blood sugar, but insulin also plays a critical role in your brain. It helps neurons absorb glucose for fuel, it supports the formation of new memories, and it regulates the clearance of toxic proteins, including the amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. When neurons become insulin resistant, all of that breaks down. In fact, some researchers now refer to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes, a term that captures just how central this insulin-brain connection has become in cognitive research. And here's why this hits seniors especially hard. The aging brain already experiences a natural decline in cerebral glucose metabolism, the efficiency with which brain cells use fuel. Studies using PET scans show this process begins in our 50s and continues through our 70s. Sugary drinks are essentially pouring gasoline on a fire that's already burning. One more thing I want to address: diet soda. I know many of my patients switched to diet soda years ago, thinking they were making the smarter choice. But emerging research on artificial sweeteners, particularly aspartame and sucralose, suggests they may negatively alter gut microbiome balance in ways that impair the gut-brain axis. The jury is still out on the full picture, but I wouldn't recommend diet soda as a safe alternative. The practical takeaway: water is the gold standard. Unsweetened sparkling water, plain herbal tea, and black coffee in moderate amounts are all excellent choices. If you need a little sweetness, try adding a small amount of fresh fruit to your water. Your brain runs on proper hydration and stable blood sugar. Give it both. Here it is, number 3. This is the one I want you to pay very close attention to, because this is the food that almost every single American over 60 is eating, most of them every single day, and most of them have absolutely no idea what it's doing to their brain. White bread. And more broadly, white rice, regular pasta, white flour tortillas, most commercial cereals, instant oatmeal with added sugar, the whole category of refined carbohydrates. Now, I'm not going to just tell you carbs are bad. That's an oversimplification that doesn't serve you. Here's the real story. White bread has a glycemic index higher than table sugar. That's not a typo. A slice of standard white sandwich bread causes a faster, sharper spike in blood glucose than a teaspoon of pure sugar. That spike triggers a massive insulin response, and then, predictably, a sharp crash. Every time that happens, several damaging processes occur in the brain simultaneously. First, the spike generates oxidative stress, essentially a burst of free radical activity that damages blood vessel walls, including the tiny capillaries that feed your brain. Second, repeated spikes and crashes damage the cerebrovascular system, the network of blood vessels in your brain. This leads to what neurologists call white matter lesions, tiny areas of damage in the brain tissue that accumulate over time and directly impair memory, processing speed, and executive function. Third, this entire process is profoundly accelerated in older adults because vascular contributions to cognitive impairment, meaning brain damage driven by poor blood vessel health, become the dominant pathway for cognitive decline in people over 60. It's actually more common as a driver of memory loss than amyloid plaques in many older patients. In other words, the blood vessel damage from blood sugar spikes is one of the leading causes of memory loss in seniors. And white bread is causing blood sugar spikes in most American seniors multiple times a day, every day. The practical takeaway. This doesn't mean no carbohydrates. It means choosing the right ones. Sprouted grain bread, like Ezekiel bread, has a dramatically lower glycemic response. True sourdough made through long fermentation also slows glucose absorption. Whole oats, not instant, are excellent. And portion size matters. Even good carbohydrates eaten in large amounts will spike blood sugar. Make this one change. Swap your white bread, and you may feel the difference in your energy and mental clarity within 2 weeks. For a generation of Americans, margarine was the health-conscious choice. Your doctor told you to switch from butter. Food packaging called it heart-healthy. It was everywhere. I understand why so many people in their 60s and 70s still have margarine in their fridge. It was what the experts recommended. But the science has shifted dramatically, and nowhere more so than in brain research. Here's what trans fats, the primary component of partially hydrogenated margarine, actually do at the neurological level. Your brain is approximately 60% fat by dry weight. The membranes of every neuron in your brain are made largely of fatty acids. For neurons to function properly, to fire signals, to form connections, to consolidate memories, those membranes need to be fluid and flexible. Trans fats get incorporated into these neuronal membranes and make them rigid and dysfunctional. Think of it like changing the oil in an engine from a smooth lubricant to something more like cold molasses. Things stop moving the way they should. Even worse, trans fats block the incorporation of DHA, the omega-3 fatty acid that is the single most important structural fat in the human brain, into those same membranes. So you're not just adding something harmful, you're actively blocking something essential. And here is why aging makes this worse. Neurons in the aging brain already have reduced membrane plasticity. Their membranes are naturally somewhat less fluid than younger neurons. Trans fats compound a vulnerability that already exists. Now, the FDA did ban partially hydrogenated oils from new food production in 2018. But here's the catch. Existing stockpiles and certain packaged products were grandfathered in. And many older Americans still have products in their pantries, certain crackers, cookies, microwave popcorn, and non-dairy creamers that contain them. The practical takeaway? Turn over the package. If you see partially hydrogenated anywhere in the ingredient list, put it back. For cooking, use real butter in moderation, extra virgin olive oil, or avocado oil. These are not just safer alternatives, they actively support brain health. I want to talk about this one carefully, because I know alcohol is woven into social life for many people. A glass of wine with dinner, a beer at a family gathering. I'm not here to lecture you about your lifestyle. I'm here to give you the science so you can make informed decisions. And the science here has shifted significantly in recent years. The old idea that 1 drink per day was protective for the heart, and possibly even the brain, has largely been revised. When researchers reanalyzed those studies with better controls, the benefits largely disappeared. What remained was a clearer picture of alcohol as a direct neurotoxin. Here's what alcohol does to the aging brain specifically. First, it depletes thiamine, vitamin B1. B1 is essential for glucose metabolism in brain cells. Chronic alcohol use, even at moderate levels, reduces B1 absorption. Thiamine deficiency is directly linked to a condition called Wernicke's encephalopathy, which can cause severe, permanent memory impairment. Second, alcohol directly accelerates brain atrophy. Imaging studies show that regular drinkers over 60 have measurably greater rates of hippocampal volume loss than non-drinkers of the same age. We're talking about the same region, the hippocampus, that encodes every new memory you form. Third, alcohol devastates sleep architecture. It may help you fall asleep, but it suppresses REM sleep, the stage during which your brain processes and consolidates memories from the day. Poor REM sleep means poor memory consolidation, night after night after night. Now here's the piece that matters most for seniors. Your liver metabolizes alcohol more slowly as you age. The same glass of wine that a 40-year-old processes in an hour may stay in your system 2 to 3 hours longer. That means the same amount of alcohol produces a higher blood alcohol concentration and longer exposure for your brain cells. The practical takeaway: if you choose to drink, less is unambiguously better for your brain. If you currently have a nightly drink, consider going 3 to 4 nights a week without. If you drink more than that regularly, please talk to your doctor. This isn't about judgment, it's about protecting the brain you have. This category catches a lot of my patients off guard because they think of the concern as being about their heart, not their brain. But let me connect those dots for you. We're talking about deli meats, salami, bologna, packaged turkey, ham, hot dogs, sausage, and high-sodium canned soups and vegetables. These foods can contain anywhere from 500 to 1,500 milligrams of sodium per serving. The recommended sodium limit for adults over 51 is 1,500 milligrams per day. Many people are hitting that in a single serving of soup. Here is the brain connection that most people miss. High sodium intake drives up blood pressure. And elevated blood pressure, even moderately elevated, even controlled on medication, causes ongoing damage to the small blood vessels feeding your brain. Over time, this produces reduced cerebral blood flow and the white matter lesions I mentioned earlier. The brain doesn't get the oxygen and nutrients it needs. Neurons start to fail. More than 70% of Americans over 65 have hypertension. If you are in that group and regularly eating processed meats and high-sodium canned foods, you are compounding an existing vulnerability with every meal. There's also a second mechanism in processed meats specifically. Nitrates and nitrites, the preservatives used to cure these meats, have been linked in emerging research to neuroinflammation and disrupted gut microbiome balance, both of which have downstream effects on cognitive function. The practical takeaway: the sodium limit for seniors is real and matters for your brain, not just your heart. Read labels. Look for soups and canned vegetables with less than 400 milligrams of sodium per serving. For protein, choose fresh poultry, fish, eggs, legumes, or plain Greek yogurt over deli meats whenever possible. Your cerebral vasculature and your memory will benefit. This last one is perhaps the most misunderstood item on this entire list, because these oils are still widely marketed as heart-healthy alternatives to saturated fat. I'm talking about corn oil, soybean oil, generic vegetable oil, sunflower oil, and safflower oil. These are the oils found in most commercial salad dressings, most restaurant cooking, and most people's kitchen cabinets. The issue is not these oils in small amounts. The issue is the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids in the modern diet, and what that imbalance does to the aging brain. Here is the biology. Omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids both need the same set of enzymes to be converted and used by the body. When you flood your system with omega-6, which all of these oils do, you crowd out omega-3, particularly DHA, which your brain desperately needs. The result is chronic, low-grade neuroinflammation. Not the acute inflammation you get from an infection or injury. That kind is protective. This is the smoldering, persistent kind that slowly damages neurons over years, impairs synaptic connections, and has been strongly associated with accelerated cognitive decline. Now, why does this hit seniors harder? Because the aging body's ability to convert ALA, the plant form of omega-3 found in flaxseed and walnuts, into DHA declines significantly with age. Older adults are already less efficient at producing the brain-protective omega-3 they need. A diet high in omega-6 oils makes that problem dramatically worse. The practical takeaway. This does not mean all fats are bad. It means choosing fats with better omega profiles. Extra virgin olive oil is the gold standard. It's high in monounsaturated fats and contains anti-inflammatory polyphenols. Avocado oil is excellent for higher heat cooking. And consider adding a quality fish oil or algae-based DHA supplement. I recommend discussing this with your doctor, but the evidence for DHA supplementation in seniors is genuinely compelling. I told you I was going to over-deliver today, so here are 3 things you can actually start doing immediately to counteract what we've discussed. Number 1. Eat fatty fish twice a week. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, and herring are among the richest sources of preformed DHA on the planet. You don't need a supplement if you're regularly eating these. Twice a week is the minimum threshold associated with meaningful cognitive benefit in multiple long-term studies. Number 2. Walk for 30 minutes after your largest meal. This single habit has been shown to reduce post-meal blood glucose spikes by up to 30%. Remember what we said about blood sugar damage to cerebral blood vessels? A 30-minute walk after lunch or dinner is one of the most effective tools you have, free, no equipment required, and the benefits to your brain start immediately. Number 3. Prioritize sleep like it's medicine. Because it is. During deep sleep, your brain activates the glymphatic system, essentially a cleaning crew that flushes toxic proteins, including amyloid, out of your brain tissue. This process is most active during the first half of the night, during slow-wave sleep. Every hour of sleep you cut short, every night you drink alcohol and suppress your REM cycle, you're reducing your brain's ability to clean itself. 7 to 8 hours, consistent bedtime, dark, cool room. This is not optional for brain health after 60. And stay tuned, next week I'm releasing what I consider the companion video to this one, the 7 foods that actually rebuild memory and cognitive function after 60. If today's video gave you the what to stop, next week is the what to start. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Let me leave you with this. You just heard about 7 foods, ultra-processed snacks, sugary beverages, white bread, margarine, alcohol, processed meats, and refined vegetable oils, and the very specific ways each one damages the aging brain. But here is what I want you to carry with you after this video is over. Your brain is not sentenced to decline. The research is clear. Cognitive aging is not just a matter of genetics or luck. It is profoundly influenced by what you eat every single day. The patients I've seen make meaningful dietary changes in their 60s and 70s. Their memory sharpens, their focus improves, their thinking becomes clearer. The brain is more resilient than we used to believe. You have more power over this than anyone has told you. If this video gave you something useful, share it with someone you care about. Hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people over 60 who need this information. And leave me a comment below. Which of these 7 foods surprised you the most? I read every comment and I want to know. I'll see you next week.